Okay. If I pop off, it's because I'm serious.
We're waiting to watch a hearing in Fitchburg, Massachusetts, where the lovely Dr. Heidi Sikora and the lovely Dr. Laura, Laura Romney Smith, and I believe John Shinhauser too. They're going to do an educational seminar that we get to freaking watch. I've watched these multiple times before, and I was like, I can't wait till I can live stream this. Yep, she popped off.
My name is Jennifer.
Had you pop off, didn't it?
Yeah. So weird how it's like I can only see half of the screen if I do it the wait, maybe if I turn it.
She's picking her son up from school, just in case anybody's wanting to know what's going on with Jen. Girl! Oh, I don't know why we're getting to that part. You keep popping off.
I know. I'm not touching anything. We're just gonna have to leave it like this. But all my stuff, the school's out. Woo! I'm advocating on the go.
Advocacy in action.
Yeah. Yeah, he's gonna come out and be like, yeah, that's my mom. She has her shit together today. Number three in the pickup line. Oh. I've been excited to watch this educational thing for real, so Lord knows.
Yeah. Have you not seen it before?
I've seen the slideshow, but I haven't seen her like present it.
It's pretty freaking cool. Okay, got it shared out.
Yeah, I did share it to the Facebook group and X at least before I cut it off.
Nice.
Oh crap! Where's my child? Hey, there he is. Hey, hey, you have a good day? Dude, somebody's like,
He's
there's a
probably like,
lot
yeah, I'm hungry.
Yeah, probably so.
I remember my kids used to eat like pigs when they got home from school.
Oh yeah, dude. They come home and just like ravage the fridge. I don't know. We're live right now. We're doing it on the road. Dude, there's a guy out here that directs traffic. I swear to God, I call him Mr. Beast. He looks just like Mr. Beast.
I don't know why they're. Sounds like they're doing the SEX.
You what?
Huh?
Oh.
They're breathing.
Oh, okay.
I'm putting on the R&B one to see what that one's about.
You have a pretty good day today? Nice. Dude, these crossing guards, man, they got a pretty chill job, I'd say. Got a lot of homework. 1 out of 10, how was your day? Dang, 8 or 9? I'd say that's a fantastic day. Nice. Dude, they got to watch movies in first and second period. I'd say that's pretty
Oh
cool.
wow!
Dude, tomorrow's Friday. We got fall break. Thank God. We can stay up as late as we want to, and we can sleep in as late as we want to.
A week off of school?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would. So, yep. We got those hearings next week too.
Yep. At least I won't have to like worry about schedules and that, you know. I see you brought your egg drop thing. Did you leave a mask? These Fitchburg people are nice. I like the Fitchburg people. Oh shit, my phone's overheating. Did you see that warning? I got a warning on my phone. It's like your phone needs to cool down. Cool down, phone? There you go. Down, phone. Yeah, I like to have this little music option on here because it's like it's nice filler, you know, ambiance, if you will.
Yep.
Man, whenever I see people doing like landscaping, like yard work for a living, I'm like, that's one of the jobs I couldn't do. Like even if I was normal, like I would pass.
Yeah.
'Cause that's hard work. You see, I was number three and picked up on. Told you I was gonna be early. They must be late.
I'm trying to click on the different musics.
I think this is what, like the second time I've had to reschedule this.
Yeah, because someone was sick.
Yeah.
That one's nature sounds. What?
Botanical that has been coming
Hey,
onto the
there's
scene called kratom,
there's my man.
Kratom. This is a botanical, I'll call it that. Some may call it a medication. Others may call it a recreational drug. It seems to have a lot of different potentials, and it's starting to come up for sale in various stores across the country and even in Fitchburg. So the Board of Health is using this time to learn a little bit more about it so we can make some decisions how best to deal with it as it requires regulation. There seems to be some adulteration of the plant, which in and of itself appears to be quite safe, but some of the additives are not so safe and have other consequences. So I think we want to learn a little bit about kratom and what's added to it, what it's used for, what its safety is, who should be selling it, who should be prescribing it if that's required. So it's really a day for us to hear some presentations and to learn a bit more about botanical.
We have a whole crew of 8 participants ready to go.
Sounds good.
And I believe, Laura, can you hear us? Laura,
I absolutely can. Do I have the ability? Can you give me screen sharing capabilities?
I can certainly do that.
Wonderful.
Let me try and remember how to do that.
Oh, I'm glad I'm not the only one that.
Let's see. Screen share.
And this is Laura Romney.
Laura Romney,
First. Yes.
Okay, great. So let me find the right. Oh, here we go. Stage noise panels. All right, I think I'm there.
Awesome.
Let me undo my video so now you can see me. Hello.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Yes, I'm excited today, and again, I know myself and Dr. Sakura and John are super excited to get to talk to you today. So let me do my quick screen share, and
And
then
Laura, I know you want to get started, but can you just introduce yourself and tell
yeah,
us what your connection is to Kratom and
yeah,
why?
absolutely, absolutely. Just making sure real quickly, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
You can,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. All right, great. So, again, my name is Laura Romney, and I am the president of a nonprofit called International Plant and Herbal Alliance. But more importantly, I'm a kratom consumer, an 8-year kratom consumer, and pain patient of 13 years. So this is a labor of love for me. It's something that is very personal and hits home to me because of how kratom has impacted my life. I will tell you a little bit more as we get going when it gets to my little section where we talk about how it helps with pain. I'll give you a quick summary of my story then. But again, I'm just thrilled to be here today. And let's see if I can, Heidi or John, do you guys want to unmute yourselves? It looks like John's first.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Laura. I'm John Shenholz. I'm the Advocacy Director for American Veterans for Kratom Safe, and I'm also a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorder. I've been clean and sober over 43 years, and the founder of Virginia's largest peer-run recovery community organization, complete with jail and prison reentry program, sober living, a national model, and I'm very well known throughout North America in the recovery space. And you'll hear more about my expertise from the addiction side of this later. Thank you, Laura.
Hi, and my name is Dr. Heidi Sikora. I'm a retired nurse practitioner and healthcare executive. During my career, I treated, prescribed, and developed quality programs for the most vulnerable patients, including those with brain injuries, frail elderly, and cancer patients. Evaluating and applying evidence-based research to improve outcomes and reduce hospitalizations was my specialty. But my career was cut short due to multiple rare congenital painful disorders. And everything in the pharmaceutical toolkit didn't work for me, and I had severe reactions for most of those things. So I found Kratom about 7 years ago, and it has truly been life-saving for me. It has given me my life back, and I am very grateful for that. So I enthusiastically volunteer to provide as much education advocacy as possible. Thank you.
Super. We're looking forward to hearing from you all.
Great, super. Okay, are we ready to get started? I'll just kind of let you know that we kind of have the little, we've got to divide it up into some different sections. So as soon as we kind of finish up a little section, we will ask for any questions. And so just kind of know if you have a question that comes to mind, we will be asking for questions along the way, and you can kind of interrupt us there and let us know anything that you have to say. Does that work okay?
Yep.
Sure.
Perfect. Okay. So, so a lot of you may not know exactly what kratom is. So kratom is an actual tree, a plant that is grown in Indonesia and that area where it has been around for thousands of years. Traditionally, it's used by agricultural workers most often for energy and pain relief. So what they typically do is just pick off the leaf and they actually chew it, or they brew it into like a tea. So this has actually been used as for these uses for thousands of years. I mean, it is actually a very large tree. The leaves are very big. You can kind of see a picture of them there. Interestingly enough, kratom is a cousin to the coffee family. Some of the effects that come from kratom is actually can help you with some energy, and so it's very similar to coffee in that respect. So here's a picture of kratom right here. So you can see the kratom tree, and there's a couple pictures of the powder and of the capsules. So it's marketed really in about 3 different ways. You typically see it in bags where there's actually pure kratom powder, and that's how I actually consume it. I just mix it into water and drink it. Some people prefer it in capsules, especially for the taste. And others actually prefer the extract. So it is natural plant powder or plant, but it's in an extracted form and just like a little tiny bottle. So it's a lot more potent and concentrated. But I do want to say it is natural kratom. So it's often called Nature Symphony Orchestra. It's kind of was that term was coined by Dr. Christopher McCurdy. He's one of the top researchers in the nation. He's from the University of Florida. And it's such a beautiful symphony orchestra because of the 40 different alkaloids that it has in the plant itself. It actually has the two main alkaloids you'll hear about is mitragynine or 7-hydroxymitragynine, or 7-OH by short. That's what we'll call it today. In its natural form, 7-OH is in a very trace amounts in the actual kratom plant. And therefore, actually, in most cases, it's less than 1% of the plant. And so again, it's just that's the most psychoactive portion of the kratom plant. And so that's where it's important to understand the tiny amounts that's there. Kratom is most stimulating at low doses, and a little bit higher doses can help more with pain relief and with relaxation. The reason why it's such a symphony orchestra is it also helps with things like mood and focus, and actually it helps a lot with anxiety. And so this is why it really is really a holistic plant that helps in so many different ways. The most important thing to remember is kratom is a partial opiate agonist, which means that it kind of tickles the opiate receptors. That's why it helps with pain, but it is not a full opiate agonist, so it will not suppress breathing, just like typical opioids like fentanyl and heroin. So this study was done by Johns Hopkins University, and it kind of shows who is the typical kratom user and why. As you can see, I actually fall right into this category. I'm a 55-year-old woman. And most people use it for pain relief. A lot use it for anxiety, depression. And there is a huge portion of people that use it as a harm reduction tool. So rather than taking more harmful substances like opioids or even things like heroin, they in turn turn to kratom, which helps, helps get them off of a lot of these more dangerous substances. So here's a picture of me drinking my little kratom powder in my blender bottle. So again, I mentioned that's how I take it. And so why kratom is such a beautiful thing is it's a very great tool for pain management. In this day and age, as you know about the opiate epidemic that's going on. And what's so difficult is pain patients like myself, it's like almost impossible to get access to pain medication these days. I mean, even Tylenol now is being questioned in some regards. And so people are just without options. And so it's tough because you just can't wish away your pain. I told you I'd tell you a little bit about my story. I have got a rare condition called trigeminal neuralgia. The coin term for that is actually a suicide disease. It is a facial nerve disorder where on the top half of my face, it feels like a constant burn and it goes into my head. So it's basically like having an ice cream headache that does not go away for 13 years. It's all in my sinuses and it's extremely painful. I've gone through everything. I actually even had brain surgery to release the nerve. I had a stimulator implant put in my face. I've gone through over 30 pharmaceuticals, all of the blocks, Botox, everything you can think of. And I was at the point where I was put on pain management. I was given 2 opioids per day. But as you know, pain medication only lasts typically 4 to 6 hours. So really, I only had about 8 hours of pain relief in a 24-hour period. So I was absolutely desperate and was unable to even get any more opioids, nor did I want them because of their dependency risk. So I had heard about kratom from a trusted friend, and he had said, you really need to try this. This works. And so when I took it, within 20 minutes, I just couldn't believe the drop in pain that happened. And I was just converted. I mean, it was amazing. And so I was able to get off my daily opioid prescription, and I have just excelled in life ever since. I still struggle every day. Some days are better than others, but it allows me to operate on about a 3 to 4 level pain versus what I would be at about a 9 if I didn't have kratom. So again, it's a great tool for the opiate epidemic. It's a real solution for that. Then we are now, so do you have any questions in general about Kratom in general, or what the product is? And then we'll transition over to John.
You guys have questions, or I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Well, first of all, how do you get the kratom? Do you have to just go to a store and buy it, or is there
Question.
some?
Yeah, good question. So there's a couple of ways. I actually ordered online. So there's a lot of really great reputable vendors that laboratory test, and they have all of the, the tracking, so you know what you are consuming is safe. The other thing that is available is to go into stores. A lot of times it's being sold in vape shops, smoke shops, and even some convenience stores. We are pushing for regulations so that they're adult only products, because we feel like, anything that you intake into your body, it should be for adult use. And so, that's kind of where it is. It is important that it is available in stores, because we have, in fact, she's on the call today, I believe, Misty Brown. She has an incredible story where she, literally was at wit's end and was on hard substances and walked into a smoke shop and was able to pick up kratom product, and her life changed that day. So if she had to figure out how to order it and pick it up and things like that, she would not have had that. So it's important to have it available in stores as well as online. It is less expensive online, so that's typically where, someone like myself orders it that way. But it is important to have it both available there.
And I was going to ask that, what kind of expense are you talking about, let's say on a daily basis for someone like you?
That's the other really good news because it's very affordable compared to a lot of pharmaceuticals and even cannabis. Cannabis can be extremely expensive if it's legal in the state. But no, for me, it typically costs me, and again, I'm a daily user. I take about anywhere between 10 to 12 grams a day, and it costs me about $45 a month.
Oh.
And I'm off of all of my other medications. And so for me, it's a huge, huge savings.
And how did you come to learn what was an appropriate dose for you? Is there some guidance, or how do you just try it and gradually?
Yeah, very good question. Well, an appropriately labeled product, especially like in the stores you're talking about, will actually have a suggested dose on there. Most of them say 2 grams. Again, that's a suggested dose. And so I would say definitely start at a lower. I even start, when I help people, I start even at 1 gram, just, so they make sure they're not allergic or have any reactions to it. And that's the good thing, is you kind of can customize what works for you. We always say the lower the lower dose, the better. So you find the dose that gives you the pain relief or the anxiety relief that you need, and you stay there. You don't continue to ramp up and try to get more and more and more effect. There's tricks like switching strains and things that helps your body maintain. But here I am 8 years later, still on approximately the same dose as when I started. But yes, that's why appropriately labeled product is important, because if anybody walked in, they would go, well, what do I start with? They could say, oh, it says right here a serving size is 2 grams. So they're able to, to start from there.
And you mentioned the taste of the powder. Is that, it sounds as if you essentially mix that with water, do you? Or
I do. I actually put a little water flavoring, because I imagine if pulling a leaf off of a tree and grinding it up and drying it and then drinking it, that's what it tastes like. It's kind of a, alfalfa-y, planty taste. And so some people don't have a problem with it. Others need the capsule format because they think it's gross. So for me, I've just gotten used to it. And some people actually even toss and wash, where they put the powder in their mouth and then swig it down with water. So it's a variety of different ways that people take it.
so it could almost be done like tea, essentially.
Exactly. And there are some that do that. They don't like the actual plant product. In fact, I did that as I was preparing for a colonoscopy. I didn't want the plant material in my body for a couple of weeks. And so I just brewed it into a tea and strained the plant material and drank the water. So yes, you can make it into a tea as well.
Yeah. And one other question, sorry to keep bothering you.
Any questions? Absolutely. We're here for you.
The 7-OH, which my understanding is what's giving kratom a bad name in some
Yes.
places because of the addition of that. How can you be sure that you're getting the pure product? I suppose, well, I won't answer it
Yeah.
for myself. How do you know you're getting the pure product as opposed to something that has that added to it?
Okay, that's a great question. Hold that thought because we're going to talk about 7OH and I will actually show you some packaging so you can understand very clearly how you can differentiate between the two. So that's coming up in a few more slides, if that's okay.
Okay, well, thanks for educating us and thanks for putting up with the questions.
Yeah, no problem. If there's anything more you think of, just let me know. So now we'll turn it over to John and he can give us a harm reduction perspective.
Thank you so much, Laura. You know, being clean and sober 43 years, attending AA meetings on a weekly basis still, but more important, when me and my wife co-founded the McShin Foundation in Virginia in 2004, it rapidly grew to a real large recovery community center, complete. When I retired 2 years ago, we had 150 beds spread out over 17 sober homes. But basically, what that meant for our purposes, about 12, 14 years ago, kratom would show up on our drug test. We've always done comprehensive drug testing. And the people who were consuming it, I never knew they were on anything. Unlike methadone or other psychotropics, you can tell when people are medicated. And I would ask the participants, why do you take this? And they would always give these answers, such as, it keeps me off of opiates. It helps me with my PTSD. It helps me with my anxiety. It just helps me be normal and feel normal. And then I Googled it, and all I saw was what the FDA or the DEA said about it. You know, they have a terrible narrative of it, fully demonizing the product. But fortunately, I'm in a community, this was in Richmond, Virginia, where we actually have a processor and a vendor who imports it, packs it, and distributes it. So I went over there and talked to them about it. And this is 12 years ago. So they gave me this education, much like Laura just gave you. And I'm thinking, well, if it helps people get off of opiates, this can't be all that bad. We did a survey. We couldn't really call it a pilot program because of, the medical doctor involved didn't want to get in trouble. So we did a survey. And what that looked like, we took 30 opiate addicts off the streets, put them in sober living for a week. We gave them access to powder, leaf, natural tea, kratom products. 29 out of 30 successfully detoxed within 1 week using kratom. And I'm thinking, holy smoke, this is going to be awesome. You know, we now have a detox tool, a plant product that somebody can use to take away the detox, the withdrawal symptoms. Well, shortly thereafter, Suboxone, when Virginia expanded Medicaid, it seemed like overnight we had a Suboxone clinic on every corner of which Medicaid paid for. So all of a sudden, these people, they didn't, they weren't seeking kratom that much, but they'd run up in these Suboxone clinics. However, I might be in my Narcotics Anonymous meeting on a Friday night, and the kid comes in detox and he's in pain, and I can't get him in front of a doctor till Monday morning. I'll suggest, look, just go Google kratom. If you like what you see, I know you can go down to the vape store and get some kratom. You can begin your recovery journey. You won't be that uncomfortable, and we'll get you help come Monday. And since then, I've done a lot of studying. There's over 600 scientific studies published on kratom. And, I read them, and there's over 200 peer reviewed. It just so happens I got one in front of me that's titled From Frontier and Pharmacy, Understanding Kratom Use, a Guide for Healthcare Providers. So the earlier question, how do you know what to take? There's actually studies out on that people can access other than the Reddit website. Well, when I retired from McShin 2 years ago, John Hopkins, they're doing it, they're going through human clinical trials as we speak, and they have been for several years now. I'm 67 years old. I have, chronic pain, almost debilitating arthritis at times. Everybody in my family of 10 has had joint replacements. And I just don't move as fast. So I personally participated in that study where I consumed what was considered, very, a low dose, like a micro dose almost. But I took 1 gram of kratom 4 times a day for 9 months, and it solved my chronic pain problems. It put me in a focus situation I hadn't had in a while, and good energy. And then part of the study was you have to discontinue use suddenly overnight. So for 60 straight days, I just went cold turkey on this product, and I was thinking I was going to have some kind of withdrawal. The only withdrawal I could tell, I didn't sleep very well for a couple of nights. I had a very good bowel movement for several days, and my pain came back, and my energy level decreased, and my focus wasn't good. But more significant than that, being an old timer in recovery, the whole time I either consumed it or did not consume it, not one time did I want to drink, do other drugs, smoke cannabis. So the point is, a lot of folks get old in recovery, and plant medicine was always the only thing we had up until 100 years ago, 200 years ago. And moving forward, a lot of folks don't want pharmaceuticals. They value plant medicine and plant products. And if you're educated in it, and you do it appropriately, it can definitely be, a pathway for many people. Now, over the years, I have seen hundreds of addicts and alcoholics pivot from one pill kills to a plant product that is FDA regulatory packaged, processed, and distributed. People don't realize that, but most of these products are FDA regulatory process. And the truth is, I never saw a real problem or issue with kratom other than coming from the criminal justice world or the competitive world of the Suboxone and addiction doctor world. But I did notice the last couple of years, we have had a market flood of these dangerous 7-OH products, these adulterated products. And the way I see it, 99.9% of these problems we're having today come from these terrible products that should not be in the marketplace. And I'll sum it up with this. In my entire recovery process, I've only seen 2 people who actually they had an addiction to the plant, the kratom, the powder product. And both those people, they knew they were taking too much, too often, and got out there too far. And so it didn't come to a surprise to them. And both of them successfully discontinued their use of kratom. And then, as we shape policy, I keep wondering, the chief complaint seems to be coming from the mental illness world, the addiction world. And I can't help but to wonder, back during Prohibition, we tried Prohibition with alcohol, and it wasn't a very good, successful policy. And I just, for the life of me, can't understand why we're going to shape policy around a population of consumers that they know they're abusing a product and they shouldn't be. But these 7-OH products, these adulterated products, America has a vape store problem. Coast to coast, these tobacco shops and vape stores, they seem to be these little get house stores that are selling dangerous chemicals and adulterated products. And I think that's our big problem right there. And, I could go on for hours, but any of y'all got any questions so far?
I have a question because I'm curious about on which drug screen kratom would show up. It's my understanding that kratom actually doesn't show up on drug screens, and that's actually one of the problems with it. So I'm curious what product you're using to screen, and in what area would it show up? Would it show up under oxy, opiates? Would it show up under I'm just curious about that. That's not
Great. That's a fabulous question. And at the McShin Foundation, probably around 2013, 2012, we started doing what's called confirmation drug testing. And that's when we send these our urine samples out to labs for confirmation. Drug test lab became a big thing around that time. And we've always used these high quality labs. So they were the ones that were picking up on it. Now, I got a drug test 2 weeks ago from McShin. They got like a 15-panel drug test, urine cup, and I got it for a friend of mine's wife because her husband, he did relapse on kratom on the 7-OH products. So on that particular kit, it was actually labeled KRA for kratom, and I actually called the drug test manufacturer. My buddy's a sales rep, and I said, "Look, that's wrong. That's discriminatory because what you're testing for is metragedine, not kratom. So metragedine is the actual alkaloid they test for, and it's on the kit I saw the other day was KRA. And if anybody tells you they ain't showing up on tests, they're using cheap drug tests. They're using those that are like a 3 panel for either cannabis, alcohol, and opiates.
Most respectfully,
If you got a
sir.
cheap, if you got a
Most
cheap
respectfully,
kit,
sir, I'm talking about tests done at LabCorp and through Quest, 24-panel tests done by doctors and professionals with whom I work. And I'm telling you that it doesn't show up on those tests. And they are not cheap tests. They're labs that are well trusted. And so this isn't direct. It just doesn't, it's not matching up for me. And I would like to know which labs.
Millennium. You ever heard of
in my
Millennium?
experience, that hasn't been the case.
Well, Millennium Lab, I know they do because we used them for several years. The lab they're currently using, I do not know the name, but I can certainly get that for you probably in the next 20 minutes before we get off the call. But that urine sample test we used, the one I said I got 2 weeks ago, I don't know the brand name of it, but I can go back down there tomorrow and get one from McShin, and I can send it to Mr. Curry, take a picture of it, the actual urine cup still in the wrapper with the writing on it, and I can send him that. But I can get you the name of the lab they're using now over at McShin. But many labs do test for it, but there's those confirmation testings that you send them off, and the urine cups themselves, you can get urine cups with 3 panel, 10 panel, 15 panel, 25 panel. I know you can get one with the kratom one because I just got one the other day, and we
So I would appreciate you getting us that information. I like to learn new things, and I'd like to see that. That would be helpful.
it's coming
And
your
we,
way.
and we do have a lot of connections with some of the top toxicologists and people that can actually answer that in detail. So we'll definitely get you that information. But I do know as a pain management, there are some pain management doctors that do not test for it, again, depending on the panel that they're doing. Others absolutely do. So, and I think because it's becoming more and more popular, a more popular substance, more and more drug tests are showing up as metragedine on the panel.
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm wondering if anybody has done any research into side effects, or maybe Laura, you've seen
Heidi can go into that. She's coming up next.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, she will. But let me tell you, as far as that's the beauty of kratom, honestly, for me, because trust me, I've taken over 30 pharmaceuticals, and in fact, gabapentin destroyed my short-term memory permanently. Terrible. So there's a lot of obviously side effects. I'm very familiar with side effects. The one very common side effect with kratom is constipation. Very similar to opioids in that regards, where it can kind of bind you up. And so I typically just take a magnesium supplement, and there's just no issues. There's no, again, if you're taking a normal dose, there's no that altered high feeling where you feel like you couldn't drive and anything like that. So really for me, that's it. The one thing that, and I think Heidi will go into this, is there's kind of a self regulating tool that if you take too much kratom, you will vomit. That's kind of the body's way of saying, you've had too much. And so that's kind of a self-regulating thing there. But yeah, it's actually got very little side effects.
What about something maybe with the kidneys or the liver? I mean, has it been used long enough to be able to tell if there's any?
Heidi, I'm going to pull you in on this one because she's the nurse practitioner. So we'll let her. She's the specialist here.
Thank you.
All right. So it does metabolize through the liver, and it goes through the P450 system. But as far as liver toxicity, there have been very few reports regarding that, and just a few case reports in the history of kratom use in the United States, but certainly because it metabolizes through the liver, it's something to think about with other drugs that go, that use that same system. So the actual effect would be, unpredictable, which one would, maybe it would increase the efficacy of one or the other, or it would decrease. Does that answer your question? Can you
I'm
hear
not
me?
sure. Yeah, can you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay. Okay.
that's the answer.
And in that same vein, is
Mhm.
there any advice with regard to interaction with other medications that should not be taken at the same time as kratom? Or
Yeah, and of course we, always advise people to work with their healthcare provider with everything. And that's one of the most important things about not stigmatizing people that take kratom, because you don't want them hiding their use of it. You want them to be able to have an open conversation with their physician and their pharmacist, because as you know, there are so many things that use that, the liver metabolism pathway. And so you want to be open and honest about that and make sure that it's being separated by time, et cetera. I do believe that because of there's actually, I think they've identified over 50 alkaloids in the kratom plant now. So it's not as, it's not as strong as like Tylenol to the liver, because we know that Tylenol is the -- 1 reason for liver transplants in the United States. And there's plenty of Tylenol overdoses every year yet. Because those alkaloids are spread out over not just the liver, but, many other, systems that it's going through. So we really don't see a lot of problem with it.
In the vein, you were talking about having conversations with a medical professional, with your pharmacist. And so earlier in the programs, we were told that it was really important for people to be able to go into a store that it's sometimes being sold in gas stations or head shops and things of that nature, so that people can get this product so they wouldn't use other opiates. So I'm curious about how that kind of access without oversight lends itself to having conversations.
Mhm. Um, well, I think that that of course people use a lot of different supplements, and so it's incumbent on the individual to be able to manage their own health care with their professional partners. And the important thing about the access is we're talking about, people who would go to the street and get an illicit substance that could possibly stop their breathing, versus going into a shop and having immediate access to something that would keep them from taking that more dangerous substance that stops breathing. So that is probably the key safety of kratom, is that it can be used for pain relief, for withdrawal. And this is by consumer, reported effects. Obviously, for plant-based substances, we can't make medical claims, but based on consumer reports of the benefit, we know that they will use that instead of getting that street drug that will stop their breathing. And of course, if you're not breathing, you're not going to live. So it can keep them living until, they can go ahead and get treatment, or, or maybe they need to stay on it. A lot of people with addiction, they have them because they have uncontrolled pain. So just because you get treatment for addiction, if you don't treat the pain, it's going to be a never-ending cycle, because they're still going to need something for pain relief. And kratom is one of the safest, substances that I've ever seen as far as the, addiction profile and the lack of respiratory depression. Does that answer or help?
I think it gives a little bit more information. Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Okay, so let's just move now on to the 7-OH topic, which is, I know, utmost on everyone's mind. So this right here is actually a picture on the shelf of actually 7OH products. Most often they are in tablet form. They are, I'm going to switch over real quickly to the next page just to show you just kind of some other examples of things that are being sold. As you can see, you have a lot of problems here. You've got things that are very appealing to children. You also, are attacking kind of the vape market. This is obviously cough syrup's horrible, which is terrible, bad look. But then you see the name of Eat Perks. I mean they refer to Percocet, and you see some of these others like Oxy, obviously oxycodone. You see Opia. A lot of these, which so again they're actually going for that market is what they're kind of pushing for. And so again, it just want to tell you that these are synthetic products. They're not kratom. So what's happened is the chemists have figured out a way to take that less than 1% of 7OH, and they extract it, that little tiny piece, and they synthesize it and make it into, that's why they call it semi-synthetic product that is 14 to 22 times more powerful than morphine. So we're talking crazy powerful. And the thing about this is that's interesting is it has shown studies that it is a full opioid. It does cause respiratory depression. It's typically not, studies show it's not as aggressive of an opiate as something like an oxycodone or fentanyl, but there is definitely some respiratory depression that can absolutely happen with this. The other thing about it is it has a very short half-life. And so what that means is it's got a very high addiction concerns that come into effect. So with the short half-life, people that have taken it for even a short time, I've heard even up to 5 days, the withdrawals can kick in after about 4 hours. So it's got a very high addiction potential. It's also a very big cash cow for these stores. This is why they are just pulling these products in like crazy. As you can see on this, typically these right here, these pills are about $5 a pill. And so, $15, if you get someone coming in spending, $20 a day or more, you can imagine what, that is doing to their bottom line. And sadly, a lot of these products are being sold as kratom alkaloids. And so what's bad about it is people tend to think that they're actually taking kratom, but what they're taking is a synthetic product. So let me switch to here. So this is a good example of some packaging like what we talked about. So this is how you would know. And I will show you at the end of the slideshow a properly labeled package of actual powdered kratom so you can see the difference. But as you can see here, this one obviously it's opia, sounds like opium, and an oxycodone. So what's interesting here is I want to point this out. So again, 7OH is just one of the synthetic products that's out there. Now they're coming up with more and more powerful substances, and one of those is called metrogenine pseudoindoxyl. And it's actually a metabolite that happens when you intake 7OH. So what's so deceptive on this is if you can see this packaging, it looks like you're taking 7-hydroxymetrogynine or 7OH. But if you look on the back of the packaging, this is the same package, you are actually intaking metrogenine pseudoindoxyl, metrogenine, a little amount, and then caffeine. So this isn't even what is listed on the front. So these are not good products. But let's pretend this even did say 7-hydroxymetrogenine. You can see on here it has 15 milligrams. In the legislation and the ordinances that we see that are really helpful for communities, we typically say as long as you don't see it higher than 1 milligram, you fall within that 2% of the alkaloid percentage that a lot of the, where they say that that's the safe version. So it is easy to be able to distinguish what are you taking. And again, I will show you a properly labeled package. I'll just fast forward really quick so we can show you since we're on that. We'll come back. So here's a properly labeled package. You can see it has a serving size on there. See, it says 2 grams. It also, has all of the FDA dietary supplement language on there that's required for all dietary supplements. Tells you instructions of how to do this. It also tells you what's in there. As if you notice on here, look, it says 7-hydroxymetrogene. It's less, as you can see, 0.02%. So this is a very, very trace amount of that alkaloid that's actually in this product. So you can see this. These products also will have batch numbers on them. So, if there's ever an issue, it can be traced back, expiration dates, and things like that. So, this is again a properly labeled package. So I know a lot of communities are saying, how would I even know? Well, again, it's a matter of being trained to just look at the label to see what's on the packaging. But in many situations, you're not going to see 7-OH in a powder like this. You just won't. You're going to mainly see them in tablet form and some of these other forms that I showed you.
What
You
does
mentioned-
sorry.
Go ahead.
What does the GMP mean on that properly
Oh,
labeled?
yeah. That is good manufacturing practices. So what that means that the person has processed the product in like a clean facility that has all of the, that they've been tested to show. It's kind of like a food handling permit. You've done your due diligence to make sure that there's, not going to be salmonella in there. It's properly tested. What's in that package is what's in the package on the label. So that's what the good GMP standards, just like you wouldn't want to go down and take a fish oil that wasn't tested.
That is the FDA guideline that they require for dietary supplements as good manufacturing practices.
Now, although you say they required for dietary supplements, the FDA in 2014 did make it illegal to import or manufacture a kratom as a dietary supplement. Or has that law changed?
No, I don't believe so, but I do believe that they are catching up with the science now. And but the thing is that the vendors are volunteering to follow those processes. So they're following the FDA guidelines.
So is there a methodology then to have people and have kratom available that's following these specific guidelines, but not make it available if they aren't following these specific guidelines?
Well, that's exactly why we are working so hard to pass the Kratom Consumer Protection Act in every state. Currently, there's 18 states that have passed that. And there's many localities that have also passed a similar local ordinance. And that's really what we advocate for, because we want good regulation. There's 20 million kratom consumers in the United States. So it's really important to provide the safest products. And I would say that the vendors that are following that process and they're actually lab batch testing everything, it makes sure that's why there hasn't been any more salmonella outbreaks, et cetera, since, it's been many, many years since that has happened.
Yeah, I think 2018.
Could I ask, where do these products like the 7-oxy and the opia come from? Who's making those?
I'm sure they're manufactured. Well, they have a lot of components that come from various areas. They've even said that some of them have been shipped in from China and things, but a lot of them are manufactured here in facilities in the United States.
Yeah, there's actually 7 companies recently. I don't know the names, but the FDA, they actually sent them the letter saying that their 7-OH is getting ready to go through the scheduling process with the DEA. So there are companies available. We can get you the name of those 7 factories that the FDA sent those that ruling to.
Yeah.
And also, I just want to add, there are workarounds on that 2014 law that you just mentioned that makes it legal for these folks to import these products. And a case just came up last year in California when they seized the shipment, that when the U.S. attorney, the court asked for the FDA to tell us why you can't ship this, the FDA actually sent an email saying, well, look, you know, we just don't have information right now to come to court. And they did that single dose study finding to make it so it was tolerable. So there are paragraphs in the FDA laws that give the kratom industry, you know, a legal workaround. And I did get the name of that drug test company. It's called DrugScan. And the cups we use is called Transmed. And I Googled these drug tests, urine cups, and dozens of them show up that test for kratom. So there's an abundance of cup tests out there for kratom and abundance of labs that test for them too. That's all. I'm done.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that oftentimes the workaround can be that kratom is being sold for soap making or aromatherapy to avoid the FDA laws. So it's not.
Yeah, 100%. But they quit that.
I think sometimes things are not quite.
No, you're correct. But see, they stopped using that because they can seize those shipments when they say that. That California case shipment said for, you know, human consumption. And that's when they went through the trial. But you asking the best questions in the world, because those are the exact questions I asked before I started advocating for this. I'm just the old Southern boy, can't remember nothing, but I'm going to get these answers in writing and get them up to Steve so he can get them to you.
And I must say that I do respect your sobriety. As someone who wrote a 1,200-page fourth step, I do respect.
That's a good one.
Have a lot of the most important things. So I'm not saying you don't have a lot of knowledge and you don't have a lot of personal experience. I think you do, but we all have to put it through our own filter.
Of course.
100%.
So one thing while we're on the lab testing thing, and I do want to bring this up about 7-hydroxy, and we'll go into this. It does, remember I told you it does have a very quick half-life. Interestingly enough, if you don't test for the drug, so if someone had, let's say someone had passed away and they suspected it was 7-OH, or even kratom, if they do not test the blood within a very quick period of time, I'm not sure exactly, we could find that out too. What happens is that 7-OH washes out of the body, and what is left over is metrogenine. So that's where I know right now scientists, because of the whole 7-OH mess, especially with the FDA, that they've come out with the warning. They're working on new and better laboratory tests that will delineate between if someone has taken 7-OH or kratom.
Thank you.
So this brings us to the FDA and Health and Human Services. So I just want to ask you, are you aware of the public health emergency announcement that happened on the 29th of July? Just curious to. Okay. So what happened is on July 29th, there was an emergency public health announcement that came out. There was a press conference that we can get you the whole press conference. It's about 30 minutes long, where Commissioner McCary and RFK both spoke at this particular hearing, and they said, here's some of the quotes from this hearing. And they were saying, they're very, very concerned about this synthetic byproduct, 7-OH. And they're seeing it's popping up kind of like what's happening with the Old Spice epidemic. They don't want to, quote, be caught flat-footed and make the mistake of having this become a huge issue, and a crisis in the country. So what they were saying is we're turning this over to the DEA, and we're requesting that they conduct an 8-factor analysis on this and then start the scheduling procedure on 7-OH products. But they made it very, very clear that they are not after the actual natural kratom plant leaf. They're only after scheduling the 7-OH product. And so I'm going to play a little clip for you. You can hear, this is actually some clips from the press conference itself. It's only like 2 minutes long. And then you'll actually see some news stories afterward where they talk about this. So it's a really good summary. So hold on.
We owe it to the American people to act decisively, and that's what we're doing today, initiating a process to schedule 7-OH as an illicit substance.
We're not targeting the kratom leaf or ground up kratom. We are targeting the concentrated synthetic byproduct that is an opioid. Well, first of all, kratom is different from 7-OH. Kratom is not our focus, but kratom leaf has been around for centuries. Some physicians have some health concerns with kratom. Um, some people describe those as minimal health concerns. Some say there's health benefits. We're not talking about kratom. We're not targeting kratom.
What is it that you're cracking down on? You just announced this yesterday. You're going after a synthetic version of it?
We don't want to get caught flat-footed again. There's a product that's a synthetic product in the vape stores that are popping up on every corner in America. And we want to educate people about that product. It's called 7-OH. It has many other names. When you go really broad and say, like, everything is your brain on drugs, you're not really appropriately risk stratifying to parents who should know. It's important to distinguish the lexicon here. So the kratom plant, which has been used in teas and other substances for centuries, may have some minimal health concerns, but it's not our focus. It's a synthetic concentrated byproduct that is stronger than oxycodone. That's where we're going to focus, and that's where I think we can distinguish where the real public health harm is. This 7-OH product can be deadly.
We owe it to the American people.
So as you can see, that made it very, very clear in that press announcement. And now I'm actually going to turn the microphone over to Heidi, and she'll talk to you a little bit about what's happened since that July 29th hearing that occurred. And then she's going to move into the science section, so you can learn a little bit more about that.
Just before you do that, could I just ask, just before you do that,
Sure.
Are these 7-OH products, does anyone know, available in Fitchburg? Are they currently able to be bought here?
I know that there's a liquid product that's being sold in Fitchburg, a drink.
The 7-OH?
I don't know whether it's more kratom or more 7-OH. I didn't really explore it that much.
That's probably you're talking about an extract. There could be 7-OH, bottles, but again, that's where you'd have to look at the label. Traditionally, though, you're seeing them in the tablet format is most often seeing them. And without even looking at your stores, I can guarantee you 100% that the lion's share of what is being sold in your stores is 7-OH.
Yes, this all started with a complaint to our office. I do not know, it was from a gas station actually, and I do not know if it was just the 7-OH, because I didn't know the difference at the time, but that's something we can research.
Great. Be happy to have you take pictures even of the products and send them to us. And again, now you've seen the labeling going in. As a secret shopper, you should really be able to delineate between the two. Okay, Heidi.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this is actually just completed the 8-factor analysis for the 7-OH, and it does support the scheduling based on the addictive liability of the product. So as you know, the FDA recommended a Schedule 1. There has not been a new drug application for 7-OH, so that's really the only option that they have at this point. So this is definitely contrasting the 8-factor analysis that has been done multiple times for natural kratom leaf, which does not support scheduling, and that is exactly why it's remained on the market since they made that recommendation in 2000. I think that was 2017. So the key kratom science, the most important thing that I talked about before is the whole leaf kratom product does not lead to respiratory depression. It does not recruit the beta arrestin pathway like classical opioids. And so that's why it's so important to remain on the market. And that is exactly why they did not remove it from the market. And they have Dr. Brett Giroir really was the one who recommended withdrawing that I'm losing my words, but he withdrew the request to have kratom scheduled because he said that it's really important as a harm reduction tool. And he was also concerned about intractable pain leading to increased suicides as well, and many other factors why they decided that they would continue to leave it on the market.
I'm curious, although it doesn't lead to respiratory depression, I believe there's some information that talks a little bit about some QT prolongation and some arrhythmias occasionally.
Actually, there's only 2 case reports regarding that that I've seen. And so it, I mean, I think that I wouldn't say that that is, evidence of causation, especially considering the millions, probably billions of doses taken. There really isn't a lot in the literature about cardiac effects.
Okay, thank you.
So the kratom does not cause a rewarding effect in animal studies. So as you know what that is. The animals will not continue to go back to it like they will an opioid. And despite millions of users, there are rare reports from physical harm from kratom alone. And that's really important, is that so often kratom seems to be the thing that gets the headlines, and then you read the details and you find out that, well, it wasn't just kratom, they just happened to have fentanyl and other drugs in their system. So it's really important to make sure that metragine is not the only thing that's tested for. And just a word on the lab test for metragine or mitragynine, however you want to say it. The more common labs like LabCorp, et cetera, I think you do have to request that as opposed to it being standard on the panel. So kratom does have a wide dose safety range, and this is one of the I think the best things about it, as Laura talked about. If you take too much, it will make you vomit. So that is an important safety mechanism. But the FDA finally has updated their website to include the single ascending dose study that was done in 2024. And of course, that was to determine the tolerability. And what they did is they had a control group and in the kratom group, and they start with the low dose, and then they continue to increase that until there's that first adverse event. And so the subjects got up to 12 grams or 24 capsules. If you can imagine, 24 capsules would probably be enough to cause nausea in most people. And so nausea did occur, but it occurred in both groups. And that actually is the foundational study so that they can conduct a human abuse potential study. And that's being done at Baylor College of Medicine. Well, they got the grant, so I think it's really important to recognize the bias in all of the reported studies. So many of the reports on kratom are truly based on 1 to 2 patient case reports. This was really shocking to me when I started studying kratom because, I'm used to seeing, real true evidence for reports, and it just wasn't there. So most of the reports are based on uncontrolled and anecdotal evidence. There's missing toxicology, and of course it's confounded by polypharmacy. And a lot of the reports disregard pre-existing conditions. So, we've seen, reports of, claiming kratom harm, but the person had previous, hepatic problems. And so it's really hard to, blame kratom when you have those kind of confounding variables. So the studies are often the reports are misrepresented as studies. And of course, you can't really call a single case report a study, and they lack scientific methodology. So,
I think that's, that's a good answer. I appreciate it.
okay. I'm not sure which one, but that's good.
I
So,
asked the question about QT prolongation, arrhythmias, and then you pointed out all the areas in which other things could have, it doesn't necessarily mean causation. And I was
Yeah.
just thanking you for that information.
Okay, all right. You're very welcome. And I appreciate the challenging questions too. So, you know, my memory isn't always the greatest either. So I don't mind, you know, any questions I can't answer, I'll answer, you know, anything that comes up. So deaths attributed to kratom often lack thorough investigations. And this is really one of my big pet peeves is so many of the reports, it's just truly based on a family member saying that they took kratom sometimes, or there was kratom at the bedside, you know. I mean, they don't include the collection of the actual product, the testing of that product, because just because somebody says it's kratom, you know, if it's not in the original package, if it's not one of the good vendors that is following the GMP standard and the batch lab testing, then you know you really don't know what you have. So I think it's really important to collect that substance and test that and make sure that's complete. So oftentimes we've seen that if somebody reports that they were taking kratom, they'll only test for mitragynine and they won't do that other panel, you know, a thorough panel of other substances, or they'll do, you know, just a, you know, 5 panel, and you might be missing some very important confounding factors. So, and, you know, we need to consider all the circumstances of death, obviously, the underlying factors and, you know, other conditions. And I think that is pretty much covered. Okay, so this is really where my scientific journey of understanding kratom began. And before I started taking kratom, I, of course, did, you know, research, which a lot of people call research just doing a Google search. Well, I started with that, and the first thing that came up was the Mayo Clinic. And what bothered me is what I was seeing in people who were taking kratom was not matching what the Mayo Clinic was saying. And as time went on, what I realized is that Mayo Clinic is not a kratom research facility. They've never conducted a study. They've never published original studies. And their information was relying truly on single case reports and secondary citations. So they were concluding based on 1 to 2 patient anecdotes, it was missing toxicology, there were uncontrolled variables, and the references that they cited did not support the conclusions drawn. Now they finally just updated their site, and they have taken all of that off that was previously up there. And I think that they have recognized that it really was not science that they were publishing. And so I'm glad for that, but they have left the title. And the title of their information is Kratom, Unsafe and Ineffective. Well, I can tell you that millions of people will tell you that it is effective. And so, and as far as safety, I'm kind of like the canary in the coal mine. I have reacted to everything. I can't take opioids at all because it messes with my balance and it confuses me. And I'm very brain sensitive because I have a Chiari malformation. And some of you probably know what that is. But kratom does not do that to me. So I think, you know, and Laura, as she said, it's very effective for her trigeminal neuralgia. And we know many, many other people that it's effective. And if you compare that to actual research, which the University of Florida has a dedicated pharmacology research team led by Dr. McCurdy. So for 15 years, he's been doing controlled trial research on kratom. He's published over 200 peer-reviewed journals, publications on the pharmacology, and is supported by NIDA and FDA. So that information is evidence-based and much more trustworthy than some of the, just medical letters that are on Google. So this is a list of actual, people that are doing kratom research. And I think that there's video links for each person so that you can actually listen to some of the testimony. And they know, they know much more about the science of it than I do. So I would take, their word for it. But there's a lot of kratom research out there. So much to, so much to learn, and it just continues. I did want to say that as far as respiratory depression in the animal studies, for the powdered kratom leaf, they were not able to give rats enough to cause respiratory depression. So that's why it's such an important harm reduction tool.
And after we're finished with this, I will be sending you a PDF file of this particular education, these slides, and you'll be able to access all of these testimonies from that PDF. You can actually click on the links from the PDF. So you'll be able to have that. In addition, I'll send you the recently released 8-factor analysis that has come out for the 7OH products. So any questions there?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious, when you had put up the slide about 24 capsules, people had taken 24 capsules, then some of them were nauseous or vomiting after that. What was the dosage in each capsule? Did it say that? I didn't.
Well, it was a total of 12 grams. So each capsule was 500 milligrams. And which is a standard capsule. I take my kratom in capsule form for the most part. Sometimes I'll take tea, but
Thank you.
So yeah. And that was in a 5-minute period of time, by the way.
And what they had, 2 people got nauseous from each group, just to put that in perspective, so nobody had any other reaction other than 2 people got nauseous from the placebo group and the kratom group.
And just something to add as far as the other case reports and the potential liver toxicity, there's only been 9 actual case reports in the literature since 2011. So that tells you that it does not seem to be a huge problem.
And I know Heidi said that the Mayo Clinic has recently updated their website. I encourage you to go on to the FDA's website as well, because literally in the last day or two, it has been completely updated as well. It used to have some inaccurate information again about, possible cardiac or liver, but all of that language has now been removed from the FDA Kratom website. So please check that out. You can't actually see a link to the full ascending dose study that we're referencing here, but it mentions that it's occurred. They're actually getting it published, and they'll be sending that out. But we do have the information from it we can get to you, but it's not posted on that website at this point, but it does reference this. Anything else on the science?
Nope.
Okay. So we'll move on to the last section, which is just a quick section about the regulation and how we can help you. So I know Heidi mentioned about the 18 states that have passed the Kratom Consumer Protection Act. Unfortunately, Massachusetts yet isn't one of them. I know there's been a lot of bills that have come and gone, and they keep being introduced. And so we do have some pressure being put on the state level. We see it more and more. There's a lot of Massachusetts cities that are just saying, what is going on with the state? We need to get this passed. And so hopefully we will get this passed in the next session. But again, we encourage you to consider this on a local level. Each one of the states are a little bit different. They all have their own little laws, but in general, we kind of call it the Kratom Consumer Protection Act. And I will show you kind of what it intends. Oh, one thing I did want to say, there are a couple of bans here that you can see in place. Recently, we had Rhode Island actually overturned their ban. You're probably wondering why some of these states have banned. Well, I know Heidi alluded to the fact that there was a point when the FDA had encouraged the DEA to schedule kratom back in 2016. And at that point, this had come out that they wanted it scheduled, and several of the states just jumped on the bandwagon before even waiting for everything to come through and banned the product. But then, again, they overturned that and they said there's not insufficient evidence to be able to schedule that. And so, but those bans have continued to stick at this point. And so we're working on overturning that and getting actual kratom regulation passed, which is what happened this year in Rhode Island. So that kind of explains a little bit about why there are still some banned states. So the key elements of the Kratom Consumer Protection Act, age restrictions. There are some states and cities that say 18 and up, others say 21 and up. And I guess it just kind of depends on what the community would like. I believe it's smart to, of course, if it's sold in anything other than adults shops, like a vape store or a smoke shop, that if it is these kratom products are sold, like you said, even the extract products, they should be sold behind the counter. So, and all of your facilities should have to age, should have to card anyone buying any kratom products. So that way, that only adults are accessing these products. We did talk a little bit about the GMP standards. One thing I have to say, the American Kratom Association has a website, and they do have a whole list of vendors that have met these GMP standards. There are many more out there that have excellent standards that just aren't listed on their site. But again, the things we talked about, making sure there's proper labeling, there's serving sizes, there's a list of what's in the product, that it's been lab tested. So you don't necessarily mean that everybody that's not on their specific list isn't a great vendor. There's excellent vendors out there. And again, limitations on concentrating or synthesizing. That's where there's language in these KCPAs, which state that if, they say that, as long as it's within that 2% of the overall alkaloid composition of the plant, or to make it easier, 1 milligram per serving, then, that really falls within, hey, it's natural kratom and it's not the synthetic products. So again, we talked about the properly labeled package. And this is, just kind of a sheet at the end. It kind of talks to you about some places you can go for more information about this. Great podcasts you can listen to, lots and lots of stories. Like, in fact, I was even featured on one of the podcasts. So lots of things you can study. Again, linked to Understanding Kratom Use, Guide for Healthcare Providers. That's another great resource for you to be able to do more research. And I think that wraps that up. So if there's any questions you have about the regulation or anything else that we haven't covered today, we'd love to help you. Uh-oh.
You put him to sleep?
There we are. We're back.
Oops, we might have run out of time.
Oh, there, you're on mute.
We're on mute.
There we go. There we go.
I think the last we heard from you was on this 2% or 1 milligram per serving.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we were pretty much there. Again, I talked about that would show the 2% alkaloid or the 1 milligram per serving. That really, if it fits those criteria, you can consider it a natural kratom product and not one of these synthetic products that we're talking about. So, and then all I said is we had looked at the properly labeled package, and then I said that this is a sheet that you can, again, at your convenience, when you get this, check more information out about, get more information about kratom in general. I know John referenced that Understanding Kratom Use, a guide for healthcare providers. That link is there. And I encourage you to even go on and listen to some of the stories on the Kratom Stories podcast. You can really hear stories. I was actually on that podcast, so you can actually hear my story in detail, but it's a great place to hear, again, about real patients and consumers and their success.
Hey, Laura, just real quick to put it in perspective, a 5-pack of those 7OH tablets would equal a 5-gallon bucket of natural kratom leaf product. So that's how bad that stuff is. And then the kratom is really just trace amounts of 7-hydroxymetragedine.
Thank you.
I don't think we, and maybe Steve can correct me, I don't think we have in Fitchburg any regulations or laws with respect to kratom. I had really never even heard of this product until probably 6 months ago. And at the very least, it seems we should be regulating the 7OH products, or eliminating them completely until more is known about them.
That's what Northampton has done. Yeah, so in Massachusetts, they did the same thing. They just recently, and you can find it online. They have published a their ordinance, and that's exactly what they did. They actually they banned the 7OH and the synthetic products. The one thing that I did not see on their ordinance that I wish they would have done was they would have added more kratom regulation. Especially age requirements and where it is sold. So I highly suggest that, I know this could be a regulatory challenge for cities, but at the minimum, I would say, get rid of the 7OH products and the synthetic products, and then, set an age restriction and how the products are being sold for natural kratom products. That would be, the ideal. For a city level, I mean, you can obviously go more detailed and go into packaging and making sure it has batch and all those kind of things. But just if you just mainly did those two things, you would be ahead of the game.
I think you mentioned that you can purchase a lot of the synthetics online.
Yes, you can.
That would be. I can already hear the arguments of the retailers that are selling it, saying if I can't sell it in the store, how do you regulate it online?
And it is a problem. The one thing though, again, now that the 8-factor analysis has come out and the DEA has it in their hands, we are foreseeing in the very near future an action by the DEA. It could actually take up to 1 to 2 years for the whole process to complete, but they can also do an emergency injunction. And so there are places like Florida that has come in and said, we're pulling all of the 7OH. We're jumping ahead of this. But so there has been movement in that direction. But yeah, really until this becomes, Schedule 1 and it's kind of a nationwide thing, it is a little bit of a challenge to deal with that. But that's any substance out there if there's regulations on it.
So what you're saying is that even if we were to ban 7OH from stores in Fitchburg, individuals can still go online and purchase it.
I mean, yes, correct, but you could also, again, you'd have to discuss it, a possession thing, but that opens up a whole nother level of regulation. But there have been some communities that have gone the possession route.
Yeah, but the online market, you could have exclusions because you can go online now and try to buy these products, but there's many states, not many, but there's a handful of states and cities that these vendors will not ship to because it's a banned community.
Correct. So if it came out that you had a possession ban for 7OH, I'm not saying that, nothing would ever get through, but that would be a great way to, I think the best way to really, try to stifle that. And hopefully those vendors would get that message that, it is illegal to ship into your city.
Yeah, you don't need the word possession, just the shipping and selling and buying is all you need.
Yeah.
And again, so there's nothing national as yet, but you're saying it's anticipated that maybe in the
Yes.
next year or two that will come about.
Yeah, we actually foresee that there'll probably be some sort of an emergency injunction, whether that's a full on, they're gonna raid the stores. I don't know exactly what that's gonna mean, John. I don't know, or Heidi, if you know what that
Well,
entails.
I think that the emergency announcement, because 7-OH is not a natural product and it does not, it does not have the history of safe use, like like the natural leaf kratom. They have been confiscating it from stores, etc. Of course, anything that is shipped, through the, postal service, falls under federal jurisdiction. So I believe the DEA would have the right to go ahead and confiscate that, but I'm not a lawyer. And, I think, the other, I guess the other thing to consider is that despite, the recommendation on scheduling was from the 8-factor analysis, the concern is the addiction liability of it. So there's been a lot of doses of 7-OH and very few reports of actual physical harm or death from it. Now it might be underreporting, et cetera. So I guess my point is that I'm not sure that the community would have the responsibility to that might be an overreach into
Right.
patient or consumer responsibility to, on their own to order something independently, et cetera. So I haven't seen other communities be concerned about the actual online. It seems like they feel like that's out of their, kind of out of their control, their span of control.
But getting it off your store shelves is a huge step.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially because people who order it online are, likely going to have a little more sophistication to, to go ahead and order it. And whereas the easy access of it especially like in convenience stores, to minors, that would be the thing that I think is most important.
Right.
Do you have experience as to who monitors that? Is it a tobacco control issue within cities, or do they have separate individuals who go around and check on the stores? I wonder.
So it just all depends. Like on a state level, they have different departments. Like in Utah, where I'm from, it's the Department of Agriculture, and they have a whole website. In fact, go online. It's pretty interesting to see how Utah has regulated it. They have registration. They have to pay a registration fee to sell. They know exactly what products are on the shelf. So it's pretty high tech how they've come up with that. But there are other cities that are, they're staying like, let's say whoever would be the person that deals with the tobacco, or their alcohol, just to make sure that, these stores are doing what they're supposed to do as far as tobacco laws go. So yes, you could assign that to whomever. So, city by city cases, however you'd want to do that.
I see. Yep.
Did you folks work with the city of Northampton and
We did. Yes, we did present to them as well.
I was just curious, the regulations I can share, is there any input from you folks as far as the regulations that they adopted?
So again, I think it's excellent, everything they did. The only thing I would add would be the age restriction on actual kratom. They decided to just do a 7-OH regulation. So everything in that is all about the 7-OH. And they had said to me, I've talked to them and they said, well, we'd like to do some further kratom regulation in the future. But I have seen, in fact, I've just been working a little bit. I've seen a draft regulation from a California city. And again, it's really, really well done. I can certainly share it with you. It's a public document where they have addressed both, the kratom as far as age restriction goes and also 7-OH. And so there's a varieties, but yes, we're thrilled with what Northampton has done, and they're an amazing bunch. Those ladies are amazing on that Board of Health. They really did their own research, and if you haven't had a chance to actually listen to their Board of Health, where Suzanne Smith actually goes in and talks about the research she herself did, she's just phenomenal. So we've been super impressed with them.
I'm especially interested in the unregulated novel intoxicating products because I did receive another complaint this week, and again, I was completely baffled by it.
Like nitrous oxide, is that another one? That's another big hot topic.
Yeah.
You're
Is that
seeing, yeah, and
what
phenobut.
With this regulation?
No. So again, you can obviously there's the one that I can send you that is from, again, it's not been passed, but it's just draft regulation that was from a city in California. It does actually, they have looked at nitrous oxide. But there's, others that have addressed phenobut and some different substances like that. I mean, the nature of it is there's always going to be somebody out there trying to make a bigger and better product to make someone high. And
All you got to do is just ban all anything synthetic or chemical.
mhm.
And that takes care of all that other stuff. You got chocolate mushroom bars there. You don't even know you got, but they're not really mushrooms. It's a chemical mushroom.
Yeah. But I'd be happy to share, again, a couple of different ordinances. Sometimes it's good to see some of the ordinances that other cities have passed, and you can kind of glean whatever parts and pieces that you like in that ordinance to create your own.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you.
I'll send you over some examples.
And I'll share them with the board.
Okay.
Yeah. We do have, I think about 7 other attendees.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it's a good time at this time, but I think they've been patiently waiting for an hour and a half. Maybe.
And I know a couple of them. I believe Misty Brown's on. She's the patient I talked about that she's got an amazing story. And I know there's a couple others. I can't see who's on the call, but I believe if she's still on, Jen Mercier, she would be a good one to speak to as well, because I know she's a vendor and she could answer some questions for you on that too. So again, I can't see who's on the call, but.
Well, Misty Brown is at the top of the list, so why don't we allow her if she's still there? Can you hear us, Misty?
I can. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi. I was just watching this amazing presentation. I'm actually live streaming it. What Laura and Dr. Heidi and John Shinholzer do, they are instrumental in helping, cities and states pass ordinances and the Kratom Consumer Protection Act, and being able to show their presentation slide. It's just been phenomenal. It's been great. I've testified to you guys before, I was in active addiction, via chronic pain management for 11 years straight. I was addicted to the FDA approved pain pills, benzos, and muscle relaxers, and then I got fired from my, chronic pain doctor in April 2019. And I went to the streets and I started doing cocaine while I was searching for a new pain management doctor. And I just so happened to, when I was in cocaine withdrawal, I just so happened to come across this documentary that was on Netflix at the time, and it's called A Leaf of Faith. And the very next day was when I walked into the smoke shop and I bought whole leaf kratom powder. Yes, I got carded. I had to show my ID to buy it. It was behind the counter in the glass case, which I agree on. Put it behind the counter, lock it up, But the one thing that I can say is that I am glad that this synthetic 7-OH was not around when I found kratom. Because if it had been, I can see myself searching, continuing to, chase the dragon. Because when you read what people are saying about how they feel on 7-OH, that's not kratom. The magic of kratom is what you don't feel. You're pain-free, anxiety-free, depression-free. But the magic of 7-OH is what you do feel. Big distinction there. So I just want to let y'all know you guys are an amazing group of people, and like I said, we've testified with you before, and we just absolutely love you guys. Y'all are amazing, and I love this presentation. So great job, guys. Thank you for letting me speak.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Nice to hear from you again. Thank you.
I have Dylan Smith. Dylan, we're gonna make you allowed to talk. Can you hear us okay? You're muted on your end, Dylan.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good evening. My name is Dylan Smith. I'm a New England resident, a father, and an advocate for natural health and medicine. My wife grew up in Mass, and we spend time here weekly, and I care about the state and the people that live in it. Before discovering whole leaf kratom powder, I dealt with a host of debilitating health issues. In 2018, I was diagnosed with neuroborreliosis, an infection of the brain and nervous system from the bacteria that causes Lyme disease. And after suffering from a host of debilitating symptoms that completely upended my life for over 10 years. Before kratom and other natural herbs came into my life, my daily reality was crippling pain, fatigue, anxiety, depression, insomnia, and digestive distress. My condition became so severe that in 2018, I was hospitalized for over a month and shortly after finally received a diagnosis. My health had declined to the point that I was put on disability, and for several years, I was unable to support myself. And while most people never return to work after going on disability, I recently have, in largest part due to kratom's role in helping to manage my complex health issues. This has allowed me to contribute to our family and community in ways that would have otherwise not been possible. In 2016, I entered recovery from alcohol and prescription pills that I was using to manage my symptoms and began detoxing off several pharmaceuticals, including benzodiazepines like Xanax and Klonopin, and stimulants like Adderall and Ritalin. I was legally prescribed these to help manage my symptoms, but their effect on me became highly detrimental. I'm extremely familiar with the concept of sobriety and what it means to be sober versus not. With a background in addiction, I'm acutely aware of when something plays a medicinal role in my life and when something is destructive. And no other substance has ever been more medicinal and helpful in my 15 years of treatment as kratom leaf has been. It supports my recovery process just like so many other people across the country and has a massive positive impact on my mental health and discomfort levels without getting me intoxicated or inebriated, which is something that's so important to me. I'm almost done. In my opinion, it is because of kratom's ability to take the place of high-profit pharmaceuticals and be used as an exit substance that is so heavily demonized. It is actually because of how beneficial it is that we see calls for bans across the country. It's so beneficial that it cuts into the profits of the pharmaceutical companies who heavily lobby and influence our government. For instance, if I weren't using kratom, I would likely be, and at one point was on, a stimulant, a benzodiazepine, an antidepressant, a sleep medication, an opiate, and more. With kratom, I only need to take one substance, and I can maintain the same dose and have for almost 9 years. This is a classic case of profits over people, just like we saw with cannabis over the past 10 years. Massachusetts has already become a leader in the alternative and plant medicine space, allowing their people to choose what treatments or medicines work best for them, despite pushback from big pharma. Why would we now go in the opposite direction? It is in fact the same people who helped to create the opiate crisis who continue to profit off the dependency and addiction that they cause. They see kratom leaf as a threat to their revolving door of profit, pain management, and rehabilitation. The stakes couldn't be higher for me personally. If I lost access to whole leaf kratom powder, it would massively impact my ability to be the father and community member that I am today. It would mean returning to a life of pain, instability, and suffering, taking away the single most effective tool that I have to manage my physical and mental health. And that's just kind of my testimony, and I really appreciate you guys allowing me to share it with you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your sharing it. Thank you.
Awesome. Have a great night.
You as well. Jen Mercia, you need to unmute on your end. You're still there.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So Laura mentioned that I am also a vendor, so if you have any questions, and if you don't have questions, then I'll just kind of share my personal testimony. So I'm going to kind of leave that up to you.
Go ahead.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if you wanted to know anything about packaging or whatnot. But so my name's Jen Mercier. I'm a mother, I'm a business owner, like mentioned, and a holistic health mentor. And I was born and raised in Mass. I'm super excited at the possibility of regulation in your community. Me and my husband, Dylan, we have been to the state twice now speaking on regulations and really hope that we can get regulations at a state level. So after undergoing several emergency surgeries, I was left into debilitating pain. I chose not to return to opioids, something that too many of us have seen destroy lives. So I found Kratom actually through Dylan. He's actually a certified herbalist, and he brought it to my attention. And I had actually heard all of the negative stories that kind of spin around. Oh, thanks. Sorry, my 2-year-old is here. Thank you, sweetie. No. Can I eat it? Yes, you can. But this is so it helped me manage my pain, stay functional, and it was so important that it didn't inebriate me. I've tried cannabis in the past, and I'm one of the few people, I guess, that it doesn't help. It causes neurological misfires. I basically think I'm allergic to it. As you heard, world-renowned experts like Dr. Marilyn Hustis, Christopher McCurdy, and Jack Henningfield have testified about kratom's therapeutic potential. These are respected researchers in toxicology, pharmacology, and addiction medicine. Their findings show that kratom can offer the relief from chronic pain, anxiety, all the things that you've heard today. And on top of that, I'd like to add the World Health Organization in its comprehensive report. There's a peer-reviewed study, it's over 60 pages, concluded that there was no evidence that kratom causes widespread harm or death when used responsibly. In fact, on page 39 of that report, it clearly states that kratom was not a causal factor in most associated deaths. Of course, regulation just makes sense. Quality control, education, and appropriate labeling. Many of the states, as you were shown, have passed the KCPA, which is super exciting. And I think until Massachusetts kind of gets on board with that, I would love to see that in your state. I'm also not that far from you, maybe a couple hours, but it's well within my driving range. So if I have volunteered, nobody's actually taken me up on this yet, but I have volunteered my time to like create a task force or help people go into smoke shops and know what they're looking for. As Laura has showed you today, it's pretty clear the packaging, but when you have somebody that can be there with you and kind of walk you through it when you're just sort of learning, I'm happy to do that with whoever you set up in charge of kind of pulling the synthetics off the shelves and keeping our whole leaf safe.
Thank you.
Oh,
Do
thank you.
you have, go ahead, did you?
That's a generous offer.
Yeah. Do you know how many cities in Massachusetts do have regulations currently with regard to kratom or 7-OH or both?
So I believe there's 5. I know of 4 that have banned it, and then I think we're working on 3 or another 4 that have done regulations. And there was a couple that we have spoke with that just chose to do nothing, and they decided that they were just going to wait until the state did something, which is unfortunate. But they decided that they just didn't either one have the resources or didn't want to take away the good stuff for people. But I think one of the things, especially with 7-OH, as people have brought up, people can get it online. But one of the kind of tricks of the 7-OH is people can go into the store, and when somebody asks for kratom, they'll hand them a free sample of 7-OH, and then they're hooked.
Yeah.
And then that's where it starts. And I think Misty can, she knows of several people that has happened to. And I feel like if we get it off the shelves, they don't even know it's there. So when they go online and they're looking, all they're going to find is powder. I don't necessarily know that it's advertised so much. I mean, it might be, but I think that's one step, a huge step in the right direction.
When you said 5 that are banned, you're talking about 7-OH, not kratom.
No, some of them, they just decided to ban everything. I don't think this was before the FDA came out and said they weren't going after the leaf, and I just think they didn't. I mean, we tried to get in and speak. I did show up at several of these. We didn't have they didn't receive the education that you did. They just didn't have the information. So I'm hoping if the state goes ahead and regulates it, that they will overturn, because that's kind of what they were saying, like until the state does something, we just don't want to deal. And that was either not doing anything or banning it completely, which is unfortunate for their communities, because I know of the communities and they are heavily rampant with opiate addiction and drug addiction and could really benefit their communities. So it's really sad.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. And we have one more, Maheen. And you need to, oh, you're unmuted. Can you hear us, Maheen? Am I saying it right? You need to unmute yourself.
Stephen, the registration information, Maheen is here to observe.
Ah, okay. Thank you for that information. I believe everybody has.
I'm sorry, what's the last name?
That person was observation only.
Oh, I see.
Wanted to watch the meeting and see our handsome, beautiful faces.
Yep.
Must have gone to the wrong meeting.
I was.
I'm one of the three. All in it together.
So that
completes the list of attendees and, oh, I have a hand from Heidi.
You're unmuted, Heidi.
You can go, Heidi.
Oh,
Was that hand a mistake, Heidi?
yeah, that was her. I think she had started to talk, it sounded like, and then it cut out. So I'm not sure what's going on with her.
Okay, let's see what I can do. She's not muted.
I know.
Let me mute and now. Try unmuting. She's moving around on me. Here, I'll promote her to a panelist and see what happens.
Oh, yeah, that might help.
Okay, try it now, Heidi. Just need to unmute yourself. Nope, she's gone. Now I lost her.
I'm here.
Oh, there she is.
I
Yay.
am here. And look, I can say hello in person. And I'm sorry, I was unmuted on my end. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I can hear you, yes.
Fantastic. I just wanted to say what a pleasure it is to meet you all. I'd love to know who is in the room and who we're talking to. If you have time to do that, I would greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time and your attention and your wonderful questions.
All right. Well, if the members of the Board of Health would like, ask each one to introduce him or herself, or I'm sorry, her or himself.
Sure. My name's Jamie D'Archiangelo, and I'm a registered nurse here in the community of Fitchburg, and have recently started serving on the Board of Health.
My name's Diane Tusignat. I also live in Fitchburg, work in Fitchburg. I'm a registered nurse, and I've been on the Board of Health for about 1.5 years now. And thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it.
Wonderful to meet fellow nurses.
I'm John Bogdasarian. I'm a retired otolaryngologist. I live in Fitchburg also, and I've been on the Board of Health, about 5 years now, I think.
I think it's more than that, but I'll have to do the math.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Say it's probably closer to 8, but
okay, maybe that may be it.
Just a guess.
And again, I want to thank everyone for participating. I think you've really educated us and given us a lot to think about and work with, and to figure out how we want to go forward from here. But it's been very helpful, and I know you've spent time to do it, so we appreciate it very much.
Thank you. And we'll be sending you some more of those resources we talked about. And again, if you have any more questions or can think about anything else you need, let us know.
Excellent.
Sounds great. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So should I end the meeting, or?
You have 2 minutes.
Yep.
We got a couple of other issues that I'm sorry that I didn't add to the agenda. I hit send and had it posted too quick, but we do have the meeting minutes as
Yes,
I believe Diane just mentioned, or it was.
saw those actually, yeah.
I did have time to review the meeting minutes ahead of time, and they looked appropriate. Everything looked like what was captured properly at the last meeting. So I would move to accept them.
I'd second it.
And I'm in
Thanks,
favor
Karen.
also.
Excellent. And I just had two announcements. I apologize, I forgot to put them on the agenda, but the first announcement is Wednesday, October 22nd. The Outreach and Prevention Division of the Health Department invites its local residents to attend our community overdose prevention and Narcan class. It will be held at 5:30 at MOC, which is Making Opportunity Count, located at 40 Fairmount Street. So at 5:30 p.m., there'll be a free supper with supper.
Well,
That's a New England word. As with resource tables available, and at 6 p.m. will be the actual Narcan